Cry Me a River? Britney Spears' excerpt from her new memoir reveals a bombshell about her past with superstar crooner Justin Timberlake. In her upcoming memoir, The Woman in Me, the pop icon reveals that when she famously dated Timberlake, she became pregnant with this baby, but had an abortion. People magazine confirms. Quote, she said, "It was a surprise, but for me, it wasn't a tragedy. I love Justin so much. I always expected us to have a family together one day. This would just be much earlier than I'd anticipated." Spears, who's now 41, writes of the pregnancy in the book. She goes on, "But Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready to have a baby in our lives, that we were way too young." A rep for Timberlake did not immediately respond to People magazine's request for comment. And I think elsewhere, there's been all this speculation now because one of the songs that she came out with afterward has imagery in it of at the very end of a woman giving birth in a hospital. And the lyrics to that song, which were previously interpreted to be about Justin Timberlake, are now being reinterpreted by a lot of the fan base to perhaps be about her regrets, or not regrets, but her struggle with the feelings around her choice to have an abortion. So the lyrics include, "I may have made it rain, please forgive me, my weakness caused you pain, and this song's my sorry."
Right. People thought that was about speculation that she may have been unfaithful to Justin Timberlake, that's what the lyrics were referencing.
And that's something that he had said at the time.
Yes. Now we're hearing,
at the time.
It sounds to me like this book tackles allegations the other way, that he had cheated on her. Obviously, both could be accurate or both could be inaccurate. There's been, I think, a lot of renewed public interest in Britney Spears as a person, given this very, very public struggle she had to reclaim ownership of her body. Being in that situation where her father had undue control over, actually, of her reproductive situation. Britney Spears is a kind of figure from our childhood, you and me, Briahna, our era, where her and Justin were such just giant stars. Probably, the kids these days, the Gen Z kids can't relate to or understand how beloved or important these figures were to us and our classmates. Had their posters all over our walls and such things. I remember wondering, even at the time, though, whether Britney and Justin being together was kind of a publicity stunt, some kind of opportunity. How much they did, if they really actually did even care for each other, or if it was for attention. And it seems like she writes in this book that it really was a sincere relationship, at least on her end, that she really did love him, that she wanted to have a family with him eventually, and how hard it was to break up.
Yeah, so part of what colors this as well is that Justin Timberlake came out with the Cry Me a River video shortly after their breakup, and in it has a woman that is clearly intended to look like Britney Spears walking around in a cheating scenario. The woman in the video is cheating on Justin Timberlake in the video, and the very strong implication was that Britney Spears was responsible for the breakup because of infidelity. And if that turns out not be true, but that he was suggestively putting that out there in video format at the same time that Britney Spears not only regretted the breakup, but wanted to have a whole family with him and felt some pressure to get an abortion, that doesn't reflect very well on Justin Timberlake, if true.
Sure. Now, it's, this is one side of a relationship dispute from 20 years ago. Take it with a grain of salt. She has a book she's promoting. I think it's already a bestseller from pre-orders and everything. She has some incentive to discuss the relationship in this way. There's usually a lot of mutual hurt in relationships that go badly. This is not radically altering my perception of Justin Timberlake just based on this.
Well, I think that's true for a lot of people, largely because the other thing about Justin Timberlake is a lot of people were very upset with him after the Super Bowl performance with Janet Jackson, where the perception was that, I'm sure you remember, but for people who are younger and weren't around, at the end of their performance, Justin Timberlake ripped open a part of Janet Jackson's clothing and her breast became revealed. She got hit with all of these fines for nudity in front of the biggest audience in America, and it really hurt her career. it's hard to imagine that this would be a big deal today.
Yeah.
The people at the time were like, the Fox News hosts were like, oh my God, it's the end of decorum in America. And everyone was acting like she had just dropped a bomb on the Super Bowl. It was
not
crazy.
Everyone. I thought it was insane. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't either of their fault. It was people thought wardrobe malfunction was a totally incredulous explanation.
So that was where that phrase came from.
Yes.
It was invented to talk about that particular incident.
Which is what happened.
Well, there's two narratives. One narrative is that Justin Timberlake was supposed to rip a piece of clothing, but not the entire, not to expose the breast, to have some kind of mesh or something to cover it.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams me here, Briahna.
This is what happened. So it was either that he was supposed to rip it, but it wasn't supposed to expose the breast. And the question is whether or not it was an actual malfunction, or if he was more, he intentionally exposed her to get publicity at her expense. And of course, there's no evidence for that, but some people's belief that happened has tarnished him in the public eye. On top of that, even if it wasn't intentional, I do think that people are frustrated. It's not his fault, obviously, but frustrated that his career suffered no consequences, and Janet Jackson's career did.
It would have been wrong for either of them, you're right, to suffer any career consequence. It was stupid. It didn't matter. Didn't matter.
I agree on that one. So I did see some people doing some joke tweets like, I can't believe Justin Timberlake ruined two big pop stars' careers.
When was that?
I don't know, early aughts.
I'm looking it up.
Did I hear the control room say 2007? That feels about right.
Might have been that.
Senior year?
Super Bowl third. It was 2004.
2004.
Wow.
Freshman year.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So that is just general color and backdrop. Of course, both Britney Spears went on to have 2 kids with Kevin Federline, who are in their late teens now.
Who was her second husband.
Mm-hmm. And Justin Timberlake has been married to Jessica Biel for years now, and do they have multiples? I
think they have 2 kids.
Okay, so they're.
And Britney was subsequently divorced from Kevin Federline, and I think she's recently, the relationship she's had going on, I think came to an end. Yeah. Too, with the.
I'm not sure.
It was with a bodyguard, right?
I'm not sure. Sam Asghari.
Sam Asghari. I think that has ended.
Yeah, so
yes.
I think
Producers are saying it's over.
This is raising some interesting questions about, if this were not famous people, there would not be interest. Right. And I would say anybody who wasn't famous, of course, is well in their rights to talk about what happened to them in their lives and to do it from their view of things. There's this interesting dynamic that emerges when people are famous and when the partner is famous. And, it invites the public to weigh in this way on behaviors that folks did when they were kids, when they were very young. It's not
behaviors
necessarily
that they're
fair.
guilty of too. I feel bad for very famous people who are subject to this level of scrutiny, trying to be real people and experience human moments in their relationships with their families. It must be really tough. I mean, it's very clear the publicity has been tough, has been hard, particularly on Britney.
Right, so that makes me very sympathetic to her to be able to tell her story. And this is obviously a big part of it. She said, this is one of the most agonizing things I've ever experienced in my life, of this interlude with Justin Timberlake and the abortion. But also, there is this weirdness about the broad public casting aspersions on a 40-something-year-old married man with 2 kids based on what in the ideal world would be private behavior. So I'm a little torn on this.
I wish we could afford more privacy to everyone, even celebrities. But here we are. Well, that does it for us for today. Tomorrow we'll be back here with more news. And if you haven't heard, we are bringing back an old tradition of answering your questions in the form of Rising AMA. Ask us anything in the comments, and we'll answer as many of those questions as we can. That segment airs right here on YouTube on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.